So in the last few years, renting out cars on Turo has completely blown up as a side hustle. I mean, I know for me it's done really well, and it's also done really well for the people that we've helped grow their own Turo business. So in this video, I'm going to be going over how to utilize Turo as a side hustle, what are the pros and cons, and what are the characteristics that make it a successful side hustle. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Peter at Car Rental Coach. Got started in the business 3 years ago with 5 cars. Within the last 3 years, I've been able to scale upwards of 50 cars right now on the platform. And big part of me being on the platform myself is I also help people start their own car rental business and scale it to where they want it to be. So first, let's talk exactly about what is Turo and how does it work. So Turo specifically is a peer-to-peer car sharing platform. I want you to think of it similar to Airbnb. So for those of you who don't know what Airbnb is, how does that work? Airbnb, you have a house or you have an apartment, you can rent it out to people, they go on a website, they see it, they rent it out for a few days, you make money. Turo or car sharing platforms, they do the same thing except for cars. So to give you an idea, think of it this way. You walk into your garage, you have 3 cars that are in there. Maybe 1 car's for you, 1 car is for your spouse, and you just have a spare car that maybe you liked or you didn't decide to get rid of. That would be a perfect car to use for Turo. You would be able to put that car on the platform and it'll be able to make you money while you sleep. Now, it sounds all well and good, which this is why I wanted to make this video to specifically get into the pros and cons to show, okay, here's how this business works. Now, one of the first things I want to talk about is the potential for extra income. Now, to give you an idea, there was a client that I worked with where they had a Corvette, and the big thing is that my client's wife, she was essentially renting out the Corvette to her brother, and her brother was no longer able to make the payments. So they came to us and they're like, we don't really know what to do with this car. We really don't want to sell it, but we heard that we could make some money off of it. And I was like, yeah, you definitely can. You could probably, a car like that, you could probably make an extra $3,000 to $3,500 a month. So that's exactly what they did. Showed them how to get started. They were renting out that Corvette. They made so much money off of this Corvette, $3,200 exactly in the first month, that they decided to go out and get a fleet of 5 cars. Now, if that's something that you think you're interested in, go to carrentalcoach.com and we might be able to get you results similar to that. But that's the first pro, is that it can give you extra income. Now, second pro is when it comes to the flexibility aspect. What's nice about Turo is that your car is, when it's rented, there's nothing really that you have to do. Your guests might ask you a couple questions. Hey, how do I open the gas cap? Or how do I open up the trunk? But besides that, it gives you amazing flexibility. You can still have a full-time job and be doing this business. Huge reason why it makes sense. And think about it this way. One of the big things, another thing you have to do is, okay, you have to clean the car, but you can even set it to only clean the car or have it where people can book the car when you're done with work. So now you have an opportunity to maybe put an extra $1,000 or $2,000 in your pocket off of just one car that you might have sitting. Now, another thing to talk about is getting started is another big pro, because it's not something that's really that hard, especially if you already have a vehicle. If you already have a vehicle, think about it this way. This is what it looks like. So you have that spare car that's sitting. You want to put it on Turo. All you have to do is take the car to a nice place with some decent scenery, snap a couple pictures of the inside, snap a couple pictures of the outside. You upload those pictures, upload a description, put in some personal information, and boom, you're in. You have an asset now that's making you money, where when it was sitting in that garage, it was costing you money. Because everybody knows, even if that car was paid off, you still have maintenance on that car. You still have insurance on that car. So this is a way to turn that car into a cash flowing producing asset. Now, while Turo does have a lot of benefits, it's important to also talk about the cons that relate to starting this business, or that are in this business. Now, one of the ones that people bring up to us all the time is, well, is there going to be a lot of wear and tear to my vehicle? There is, because people are going to be driving it a lot. Now, we do have a lot of ways that we mitigate that wear and tear, but it is inevitable because people are going to be driving that car a lot. Now, another thing that I want to talk about con-wise is insurance. Now, nobody wants to think about this, but it does happen. I'll give you an idea for our own fleet. We had a car, it was going out, it was making us decent money. Somebody wrecks into that car, well, now the car's not making us any money. Now, what's nice is when the car was out, Turo does cover it insurance-wise, but the risk is that now when the car's down, you're not making any money. So you do lose out in that respect, is really that the opportunity cost of income that you could be getting. Okay, and another con is that while I did say it's flexible, it does require time, specifically when it does come to cleaning the vehicles. It's not something that, takes 10 or 15 minutes. Typically, it might take 30 or 40 minutes to clean a vehicle if you're doing it the right way. What is the right way? Hey, let's say that Sally rented out your car. She drove it a couple 100 miles. Car comes back. It has bottles all in the back seat. The exterior is all dirty. What do? Well, you have to get the car. You run it through a car wash. After running it through the car wash, now you have to remove all the bottles. You have to vacuum out the vehicle. And if you do a process similar to ours, then you're going to wipe down the vehicle with some kind of disinfectant. Then you're going to go ahead and put some kind of shine on the vehicle, an Armor All, some kind of product like that to make that vehicle look the best as possible. Because what you want it to be is you want it where the next person gets into that car, they have no idea that Sally drove that car a couple 100 miles. They get in and they're like, wow, this car's in great condition. It smells nice. It looks nice. This is getting exactly what I paid for. This is what I wanted. That's the kind of experience that you want to offer. So while Turo can give you good income, that income can oftentimes be unpredictable. Well, you might ask, why would it be unpredictable? If I put the car on there, the car should always be running. Well, it's not necessarily the case because, remember, we live in America. We have a capitalist system here, which means that prices are going to be fluctuating based on how the market is reacting. To give you an example of this, let's say it's time that just passed, the 4th of July. Do you think that more people are going to be renting cars during the 4th of July than at any other time of the year? Probably. What does that mean for your Turo business? It means that everyone's going to creep up their prices, which means that at the same time, you should raise your prices a little bit because that might be an opportunity for you to make an extra $10 to $20 a day depending on your area. So that's what I'm saying. The income can be unpredictable, and that's a positive example of how it can be unpredictable. A negative way of how it can be unpredictable is that, okay, let's say that during that 4th of July time, you raised your price $10 or $20, then you never take the price back down to what it was at market time. Well, now maybe you haven't looked at your account in a week or two. You have no bookings. That's how it can be unpredictable, and that's a big reason why you need to stay on top of it. Now, another con is that some areas, this isn't something we see as much on the state level, more so on like a local city level. They have some regulations around specifically car sharing on this peer-to-peer level, kind of equivalent to how some areas have restrictions on Airbnb or even restrictions on Uber. That's similar to this industry, so you need to see if your local city or your local town has any kind of restrictions on if you're allowed to do car sharing. And if you are allowed, what kind of licensing do you have to get? Those are just some things that you have to look into. So that's going over the pros and cons. Next thing I wanted to go over is some of the most popular questions that we get of people that are in our coaching program specifically. More so, they're asking us this as a, does this business make sense? Specifically make sense as a side hustle for people that do have a full-time job. And the first question that I always get asked is, Peter, what kind of cars should I get? Should I get economy cars? Or should I get luxury cars? I'm going to give you two answers. Answer one is going to be, it depends on you. Now, when I say it depends on you, personally, I recommend economy cars because they consistently rent, the maintenance is low, and the cars are reliable. Those yield me more profits. Somebody else might say, on the contrary, that luxury is better because you get more revenue. While you get more revenue for luxury, your expenses are also significantly higher. Now, that's why it's a two-part answer. Economy is good, luxury can be good. Me personally, I'm more of a fan of economy. Now, another question that I typically get here is location. In this, I'm very upfront with people. Is my area right for Turo? Well, when you do research, that will answer your question. Now, I'm not just gonna say that and leave you hanging. Let me tell you what kind of research you need to do. Let's say that if you live in Florida and you live in Orlando, I want you to go on to the Turo app and specifically look for economy cars that are similar to the car that you wanna rent. Put that all into the search bar. If you see a ton of cars in your area, upwards of 10 or 15 cars that are listed and they're renting, probably a good area for you to do it in. Now, on the contrary, if you live in Pennsylvania and let's say that you're in Uniontown and you go on Turo and you don't see any cars that are comparable to yours, then your area is probably not a good one, which is unfortunate. I also tell people, look on Get Around, look on Hire Car, because maybe those areas maybe they do better on some of the competitor platforms, but typically, if you don't see a lot of demand on Turo, then it's not a great sign for the area. Now, don't get discouraged. You can always move your car into an area that's close to you, maybe if it's 30 minutes away or 40 minutes away, and maybe that area is busy. So don't let it discourage you just because you live in an area that might not be as popular. Now, next question that I get is, okay, if I'm renting out cars, Peter, how often should they be rented for? Now, I'll give you a good idea of what this should look like. So if you get a car and the car is only rented out for 10 days of the month, you rented the car, it's 10 days, all it's doing is covering the maintenance, the insurance, and that's about it. That's not what you started this for. You started this to make a profit. You want money to be there at the end of the day so you can use that to take your family on vacation, maybe take yourself to do something that you like to do, go golfing. You want that money so you can better your lifestyle. Now, if your utilization is only at 10 days, I'm going to tell you that's not doing very well. My average utilization is 25 days. Anybody that I work with, at least on the coaching front, we get them to be rented out at 16 to 17 days. That utilization is going to determine how much money that you're making, how your account is set up, and if it's set up the right way and you are consistently making the right adjustments, that's how you get the utilization up. And in return, when it's up, that's how you make more money. And again, if you want to make sure that you get the right utilization, go to Car Rental Coach, fill out that survey. If you're qualified to work with us, I will be getting on a call with you personally or a member of my team if my calendar's booked, and we will figure out exactly how to get your account to where it needs to be so that your cars will actually rent and you'll make money. Next thing I want to talk about is big question I get, Peter, what does the time investment look like for me to rent out my spare car? Now, I'll give a typical example. There's somebody that I was speaking with on the phone not that long ago. They had a spare car that was sitting in their garage. Specifically, I think it was a 2018 Kia. I can't remember the exact model, but I know it was a Kia and it hit the requirements. It was under 130,000 miles and it was within the 12-year time frame. And that was the exact question he asked me. He's like, hey, look, I have a full-time job as a software developer. How much time is this going to take me? Because I'm exhausted when I get home. I mean, I worked a full 8 to 10 hour day. I come home. I want to hang out and relax. I don't want to have to go and clean a car for 3 or 4 hours. I was honest with him. With that one car, it might only take you a couple hours a week. What all goes into that couple hours a week? Well, I tell him, hey, look, man, if you come home, let's say the car went out on a trip, you do have to go and clean it. That might take 30 or 40 minutes. But when you have one car, if it's consistently rented, you might only have to do that once or twice a week. What else do you have to do? You have to answer your guests. We have a whole system at Car Rental Coach where we have automated messages that answer 90% of guest questions, so you really don't even have to do that. Only thing that you really have to do is get your car, clean it, take the before and after pictures, and send it back out on its way. Now, the last question that people ask me is this right for the kind of car that I have? Now, these are the things you need to look at to make sure specifically for Turo. All right, number one, do you have a car that fits within the 12-year time frame? As in your car can't be older than 12 years to go on the platform. The second big thing, does that car have less than 130,000 miles? Great, so you got 2 of the boxes. The last box, does your car have a clean title? It must have a clean title to go on the platform. And I have an unfortunate story about this. I had a gentleman where he wanted to work with us. He did a lot of repair work with cars, and he was excited. He's like, I have 5 or 6 cars that are ready to go. And on the call, I was like, oh, that's great. You told me you do repair work. Are all of those cars clean title, or what kind of happened with that? He explained it to me. He's like, well, they're not clean title. He's like, is that going to be a problem? I was like, yeah, man, unfortunately, the cars do have to be clean title, and I'd love to work with you if we can figure out a way to get them to be clean. When I say get them to be clean, as in you'd have to purchase them clean. So that's really that story. If you have those 3 things, then it is right for you. You could start making some money off of this. If not, then you're going to have to figure out a way to get a car that makes all 3 of those criteria work, which it's really not that difficult of a thing. Now let's talk about this. What makes a good side hustle? First thing is flexibility. Do you have time to still do your full-time job and to do this? We've covered it with Turo, yes. Because if you only have 1 to 2 cars, they're rented out the majority of the time. All you really have to do is clean it and take pictures and respond to guests. Pretty easy. Second, what's the initial investment to get into this? Is it a low initial investment? Well, Turo is. If you have a spare car, then it might cost you nothing to get that car on the road if the car's in good shape. If you have to go and buy a car, then maybe you have to buy anywhere from a $10,000 to $15,000 car. But that's significantly lower than a lot of other side hustles where you have to learn a whole skill. Here, you really don't even have to learn a skill. You just have to have a car, take pictures, and get it out there. Next thing is scalability. Can you make this side hustle a main hustle? With this, you can. Really, the big thing that goes into it is you got to get more cars. So, okay, it answers the scalability question. Next is, what does it look like time management? Kind of complements the flexibility part, which is, can I manage my full-time job while managing this? The answer is yes. Because again, with Turo, you get to set the hours when somebody can rent your vehicle. So if you're working from 9 to 5, okay, you set the hours where nobody can pick up or drop off a car between those hours. You could have them drop it off, but nobody can pick it up between those hours because you always make sure that you clean it before it goes out again. So the last thing I'm going to go over is this profitable? The answer is yes, depending on how you set it up. Now remember, in my other videos, as I've talked about, when I got started, I was running at a 30% margin. I had a parking lot attendants, cars were financed, but it was still profitable. It was making money. On the contrary, when George got started, he was operating at over a 50% margin. Bought his cars cash, did a little bit of a better deal with the lot. George did it the better way, so it can even give you a 50% profit margin to start. And let me tell you, that is a realistic thing. Even we have somebody that we are working with currently, where based out of Atlanta, Georgia, worked in corporate his whole life, always wanted to start some kind of business. I got on the phone with him. He's like, I just didn't know what kind of business to start, but I've been looking into this and I think it's a good idea. And that's what he asked me. He's like, well, is it profitable though? Because it looks good, but is it actually good? So him and I talked about it. I'm like, well, what would you be comfortable with on a monthly basis? He's like, well, I'd like to go out and get anywhere between 5 to 6 cars. If I could get, I don't know, anywhere from 7 to 10,000 a month, operate at a 50% margin, I would be happy to start. I'm like, okay, we could show you how to do all that. We helped him out with the financing. We helped him pick out the right vehicles where they actually rent. Now he is at the place where he averages $7,000 to $10,000 a month, and he profits 50% of that. And if you want to do the quick math, $7,000 means on the low end, he's getting an extra $3,500 a month in income. On the high end, getting an extra $5,000 a month in income. So it can be worth it because it is profitable. Now, if you want similar results like that, you're getting started and you're like, hey, look, I have the right credit. I do want to get a lot of cars. I just don't know how to do it. Go to carrentalcoach.com. You might qualify to work with us. If you do, then I'll show you exactly how to do those things. I'm not going to put you with some other people that don't know how to do it. It'll be George and I personally, the people that are in these videos. We're going to show you, okay, here's how you finance the cars, here's how you get the cars, and most importantly, here's how you make money off of these cars. If that's what you're interested in, go there. It might be able to help you out. And that concludes the video, so make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.